Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the source material you need and turn it into actionable, compelling knowledge.
Today, we are diving into one of the most expensive frustrations in modern business, the AI gold rush.
It really is.
Yeah.
Organizations are pouring massive capital into advanced technology, machine learning, complex predictive modeling, NLP.
And yet, the research paints a pretty grim picture.
It does. Studies consistently show that somewhere between 60 to 85% of these AI projects fail to move successfully from pilot to full production.
That statistic is a multi-billion-dollar headache. And if you're hearing that, you might naturally assume the problem is the technology itself.
Right, that the algorithms just aren't smart enough or the data isn't clean enough.
Exactly. But that is the first and I think most critical misconception we need to clear up for you. The bottleneck today is absolutely not technical capability. It's not algorithmic sophistication.
So what is it?
It is the organizational capacity for change.
So it's not the machine that's faulty, it's the environment we've built around the machine.
That's it.
Our mission today, then, is to understand precisely why the traditional C-suite structure, the one optimized for stability and efficiency, is structurally incapable of managing this AI-driven transformation.
And crucially, we'll identify the specific executive role that is emerging to bridge this gap, this critical gap between what's possible and what an organization is actually ready for.
We're going deep into what organizational theorists call the structural hole. Okay, let's unpack this. The structural hole.
Let's do it.
We know how the C-suite works. I mean, it's built on functional specialization. But AI, by its very nature, it's a pervasive, cross-functional force.
It cuts across everything.
So why can't we rely on those established leaders, the CIO, the CTO, the COO, to just, expand their mandates to handle this?
That is the essential question, isn't it? The C-suite, as it currently exists, is optimized for silos, and that specialization becomes the enemy of integration here.
Okay, so break that down for us.
Look at the defined roles. The Chief Information Officer, the CIO, manages core infrastructure, systems, security. They're worried about the foundation.
Right.
Then the Chief Technology Officer, the CTO, focuses on product innovation, technical architecture, sort of the external tech roadmap.
Okay.
The Chief Operating Officer is focused on optimizing existing processes, making the trains run faster, not rebuilding the entire track. And the CHRO, well, they're the steward of talent and compliance, managing people within the current structure.
So all of those are vital areas of ownership, but they are defined by their boundaries.
Exactly. By their boundaries, not their connections. AI transformation requires integrated strategy, governance, and execution across all four of those boundaries at the same time.
So that empty space in the middle, that's the structural hole.
That's it. It's that critical function that cuts across the strategic, the technical, and the human domains, but belongs fully to none of them. And when you lack a dedicated authority to manage that intersection, you get these substantial, predictable negative consequences.
And the cost of that vacuum is huge because the failures are just so clear. You're talking about AI projects being launched not because they align with a new process, but because, the CTO wanted a cool new tool.
Precisely. You see AI systems deployed without cultural readiness, without buy-in, and the immediate result is employee resistance or, shadow IT adoption that just cripples the intended gains.
And even worse, if you implement a sophisticated algorithm without redesigning the process around it.
You don't just fail to create value, you actively automate dysfunction. I mean, the process might be faster, but now it's just efficiently executing a bad strategy.
And maybe the most damaging failure is when these technologies are rolled out without adequate reskilling.
That's the human cost of the structural hole. It leads to unnecessary worker displacement because management prioritized the tech rollout over developing their own people. You leave huge capability gaps unfilled while creating this narrative that the company values code over people.
These are not technical failures.
No, they're organizational design failures. And they demand executive accountability for change management.
That makes perfect sense. So let's define why this particular shift, this AI transformation, is so much harder than previous technology waves. I mean, implementing something like an ERP system 20 years ago felt monumental, but it was basically standardizing workflows that already existed.
Yeah.
AI feels different.
It is fundamentally different. It touches the core definition of work and value. Implementing an ERP, that required what organizational literature calls first-order change.
Doing things better.
Right, doing things better, more efficiently. AI demands second-order change, which means you are doing different things entirely. The company's underlying business model, its operating principles, its decision rights, they all have to be reevaluated.
Can you give us a clearer analogy? If first-order change is just getting a faster train, what's second-order change?
Well, a good way to think about it is this. First-order change is optimizing the horse-drawn carriage route. Second-order change is realizing you now have a car and you have to redesign the entire city around roads and garages, not stables and cobblestone paths.
That's a great way to put it.
AI doesn't just speed up human decision-making. It fundamentally alters who makes decisions, how decisions get made, and increasingly, which decisions humans should even be making at all.
And that requires reimagining job roles from the ground up, which, as you said, none of the existing C-suite roles are really mandated to do alone. That reframing is the pivotal insight.
And the source material helps us break this down into 4 distinct categories of AI adoption.
Right. First, you've got augmentation AI, which is designed to enhance human capabilities, like software helping a claims adjuster prioritize files, or radiologists using computer vision.
Then you have automation AI, which is more of a straightforward replacement of repetitive tasks. Think robotic process automation, RPA, handling invoices. The challenge there is less technical and more about process efficiency and managing morale.
But the complexity really spikes with the other 2 categories, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The third is decision AI. These are systems that shape or make truly consequential choices.
Like credit scoring algorithms, fraud detection.
Dynamic pricing models, exactly. This category needs intense scrutiny because the potential for real-world negative impact or algorithmic bias is extremely high. You need leadership dedicated to ethical outcomes, not just performance metrics.
And finally, the category that's been all over the headlines, generative AI.
Creating novel content. LLMs for copywriting, code generation, you name it. And this introduces massive IP and security risks alongside the efficiency gains. Managing these tools demands alignment between legal, tech, and business units. No single leader can oversee that complexity alone.
So with all these moving parts, it's no surprise that organizations keep hitting the same non-technical barriers. Cultural resistance always ranks among the top 3 obstacles, year after year.
It's the constant killer of innovation. Employees fear that AI means their job is next, or they just resent technology being imposed from on high without their input, and that fear turns into active resistance.
On top of that, the skills gaps are chronic. I think I saw that 65% of executives cite insufficient AI literacy across their workforce.
Which is huge. If the people who need to use the tools don't understand their possibilities or their limitations, you are guaranteed a poor deployment.
And finally, that fragmentation we discussed earlier just comes home to roost as siloed decision-making.
That's the structural hole manifesting daily. Unclear accountability means different teams buy different tools. You get redundant effort, security flaws, and an inability to share data. Instead of cohesive transformation, you get death by 1,000 uncoordinated meetings.
Okay, let's move from the concept to the consequences. What does this fragmented leadership actually cost a company in hard numbers?
It costs time and money. The data shows companies that lack designated transformation leaders experience project failure rates that are 2.5 times higher than their competitors.
2.5 times.
Wow. And even when they do succeed, they face a painful 40% longer time to value realization. I mean, just imagine pushing out your expected returns by a year simply because you didn't have the right person in charge of integration.
I think the manufacturing comparison study is the clearest way to explain this gap. It really distinguishes organizational change from just pure IT spend.
It's the perfect illustration. So companies often treat AI for predictive maintenance as just an IT project. The firms in the study that did that, just a software upgrade, they achieved average efficiency gains of about 8%.
Respectable, but not groundbreaking.
Right. But here's the kicker. The firms that approached it as organizational transformation, meaning they had a leader who redesigned the maintenance workflows and proactively reskilled their technicians, they realized gains of 23%.
That is a staggering 15 percentage point difference, and it's attributable entirely to organizational integration and human capital, not better code.
Exactly. The algorithm was similar, but the organizational structure allowed one group to realize nearly 3 times the value. Siemens faced this exact issue.
They were early adopters, right?
They were, but their rollouts were met with deep resistance from plant managers. Why? Because the managers felt the technology was being dictated by corporate IT. They saw it as extra work, not enabling support.
So how do they solve that friction?
They fixed the structural hole. Siemens created a central digital transformation office reporting directly to the CEO. This office was explicitly tasked with cross-functional alignment connecting strategy, technology, and culture.
And it worked.
It did. That shift led to measurable double-digit efficiency gains across their plants within 2 years.
Beyond the financial costs, we have to talk about the human impact. This leadership vacuum creates anxiety, resentment. It can break the psychological contract between a worker and their employer.
And that failure to address the human dimension is fatal to adoption. Look at the Cleveland Clinic's experience with AI-assisted diagnostic tools. Early pilots faced massive skepticism. Initial physician satisfaction was only 42%.
These are highly trained professionals who felt their autonomy was being threatened.
Of course. So how did they pivot? Not by changing the tech. The change was purely organizational. They brought in change leadership, they involved physicians in selecting use cases from the start, and they provided extensive training.
And crucially, positioning the AI as a support tool, not a replacement.
Precisest. Post-implementation, physician satisfaction with the tools jumped to 78%, and diagnostic accuracy improved. The technology only succeeded once the organizational context was supportive.
And if that context isn't there, you risk falling into what the source material calls AI theater.
The appearance of innovation without any substantive value, or, even more critically, you face significant governance failures. This is where we have to talk about algorithmic bias in hiring platforms or credit scoring.
When these systems produce biased outcomes, is that a technical oversight?
I'd argue it's not. It is an organizational failure. It stems from the absence of executive leadership ensuring robust impact assessment, fairness testing, and ongoing monitoring. You need an executive who worries about organizational risk and societal impact, not just server uptime.
So all of this points to one conclusion. The structural hole must be filled by a new, highly empowered executive. Let's talk about the solution. The Chief Innovation and Transformation Officer, or CITO.
That's right. The CITO is the person responsible for bridging that gap between what the technology can do and what the organization is ready to do. They establish centralized strategic oversight with what we call federated execution.
Can you define that term for us? What does federated execution look like in practice?
It means the CITO sets the strategic direction from the top, the standards, the governance, the enterprise priorities. But the actual implementation teams, the AI squads, are embedded within the individual business units so they can move quickly and own the local outcomes.
And for this CITO to succeed, they need specific, non-negotiable capabilities.
Yes, they need direct CEO reporting. That signals to the rest of the C-suite that this is a strategic imperative, not an IT project.
They need budget authority.
Yes, budget authority that spans both technology and organizational change, including training. They must have convening power to resolve conflicts between the CIO, COO, and CHRO. And finally, their accountability has to be measured by business outcomes, not just technical metrics.
Let's look at this in action. DBS Bank in Singapore seems like a great template for strategic integration.
A perfect one. They created a Chief Data and Transformation Officer role with that direct reporting line. This executive operated at the intersection of tech, business strategy, and culture. They established cross-functional AI squads and launched massive data literacy programs.
And the result?
DBS was recognized as a top digital bank and successfully deployed over 90 machine learning models. It fundamentally changed their operations.
And then you have the critical task of culture change. Unilever provides a powerful example with their recruitment AI.
They didn't just deploy the tech, they managed the narrative. They explicitly communicated how AI would reduce human bias and accelerate decisions. By involving recruiters and building trust, they cut screening time from 4 months to 4 weeks.
And got 72% employee acceptance. That's incredible. That cultural scaffolding is what separates implementation from true adoption.
It really is. And you can't overlook the challenge of workforce capability. The AT&T example is just huge.
The Future Ready initiative.
Right. They knew automation required a complete overhaul of their talent. Their Future Ready initiative invested over $1 billion to reskill 100,000 employees over 5 years. They used nano degrees and customized learning to pivot their staff toward analytics and AI.
$1 billion. That's not a software license. That's a fundamental commitment to the value of human capital.
Precisely. And finally, we circle back to governance. A transformation leader needs to ensure their AI systems are deployed responsibly. Microsoft really set the standard here.
By establishing their AI and Ethics and Engineering and Research Committee.
Exactly, and it reports directly to senior leadership. That committee is the centralized authority for ethical deployment. It reviews high-risk applications and sets company-wide standards. The CITO ensures ethics and governance are integrated into operations, not treated as a compliance afterthought.
Which is fundamental to maintaining trust.
So, if we connect this all back, the core insight is undeniable. Organizations treating AI as a pure technical project managed in silos, they're the ones with that 16 to 85% failure rate.
While the ones that treat it as a holistic second-order transformation under dedicated leadership.
They achieve substantially better outcomes in performance, in innovation, and in their human impact.
And success requires building the capacity for continuous learning, not just finishing one project. That capacity needs to live in the company's DNA, which requires distributed leadership.
Exactly. The CITO can't do it alone. The goal is to build change agent networks. We see examples like Rabobank, which created an internal network of over 200 employees trained in digital transformation. These agents spread knowledge and maintain velocity.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've seen that the future of AI in organizations isn't primarily about smarter algorithms. It's about wiser organizational design and more capable transformation leadership.
That's the takeaway.
When you look at your organizational chart today and you see that critical gap, that structural hole, what does the absence of a dedicated CITO mean for the integrity of your organization? For its ability to capture those 23% gains instead of struggling with 8%? That is the question that defines competitive advantage in the AI era.